Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC, Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Capital Advisory Group, Inc. is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS nor Kestra AS provide legal or tax advice and are not certified public accounting firms.
You work hard for your money. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to keep what's yours. Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours. Here is Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Hello and welcome to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. I'm Josh Gilbert, sitting here with Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Full disclosure, Jeff, you are my tax guy. And right before we went on the air, we just had a couple of conversations. I think we're going to talk about where's my refund.
Yes.
I jumped online and said, where's my refund? There's a place you can go for that to check. And you said, whoa, don't look it up yet. Because the IRS kicked something back and said, hey, we need to know, a couple of numbers about daycare and a couple more numbers. So it's an ongoing thing.
That it is.
So sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's not. But that's why you need a Jeff Zufall to do it for you, because I'd be lost in the woods.
Yes.
I'm not really good with numbers in the first place. And then when you start incorporating tax code,
Makes it a little complex.
A little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. So what are we, 10 days, 12, almost 2 weeks out?
2 weeks out almost.
Yeah. How you feeling? You good?
Yeah. Come back to life.
Right. Well, you walked in, you said, I got plenty of time today.
That's right. Got tons today.
Stretch our legs. I don't have anything to do.
Yep.
Nothing pressing. So we'll stretch our legs a bit today. But congratulations again on getting through tax season.
Thank you. It was fun this year. Didn't seem as bad as 20 and 21. Those years were wacky because everything with COVID and all the crazy stuff. This one, if you could call it, went back to a kind of a normal tax season, if you want to call it that.
No, I like that. Yeah, back to a little normalcy.
Yeah, a little normal.
A little routine.
Yeah.
It was a fun tax season.
Yeah.
You can quote Jeff on that one. It's a fun one.
It was a fun one, yeah.
Well, let's have some fun today.
Sure.
Talking about the IRS. Let's see how they're doing during this tax season. I don't know if they give you alerts and say, hey, to all the tax preparers out there, we're doing a pretty good job.
No, they really don't do that. You can go, we as preparers have our own little website we can go look at. Shows how many returns that were done, how many were, e-filed, mailed, blah, blah, blah. They kind of give you the big picture on that. Yeah. But that's all they really say. So,
how many tax returns did you guys do at Capital Advisory Group?
Completed 1,148.
Oh my!
And there's to anybody listening that has an extension, probably 300 returns sitting out there on extension. Which Monday we go back at it. So. It's kind of a mini tax season after tax season.
Yeah, to finish up all of the extensions.
Some of them they need research done to figure out, what angle to run with. Some still missed K1. Some didn't come in until, the last week by the time they clients rounded their stuff up. So there's a whole, a ton of reasons why. And some of them were complex enough that my brain was toast that I really did not want to go tackle a complex return. When I was at 2.5 months at 100 hours a week plus.
Yeah. Well, it's like I never understood. I've got sisters and in-law and family members who are nurses. And they do 24-hour shifts.
I don't get that because my brain. Literally, when I know when I'm to stop at night, during tax season, when I start slurring simple math that you could do, the millisecond, you could add it up, and all of a sudden you start slurring it, and you're like, nope, done.
Let's take a break. Let's get some sleep. Let's get some food. But, do I want a nurse on her 23rd hour? I have a medical emergency.
Yeah, I always worried about that on doctors, where they go, 24 hours or whatever, or 48 hours straight. I was like, why would somebody be able to go, oh, hey, it's this, not that. We'll fix you.
Right. Obviously, logistically, someone smarter than us have figured it out, and there's a reason why they do it. But I never, no one's ever explained it enough to me. Yeah. But same thing with Jeff. You stare at numbers all day.
Oh, yeah.
you got to take a break.
After about 14, 15 hours in a day, you're like, nope, we're done.
Yeah.
So,
and, you get an extension and you get a little bit more time to work on it. You still got to pay.
Still got to pay.
Still got to submit your money.
Yeah. So.
But we talked about that a lot last week because it was the end of it. But you still have to pay your money no matter what, even if you got an extension.
Yeah.
And if you're out there and you're listening to the show and you said, I didn't do anything about my taxes this year, I didn't submit money, I didn't submit the taxes, I didn't even file for an extension, you need to call Jeff right now.
We'll get you situated.
636-394-5524. That's the number for Capital Advisory Group. And the idea is it's going to cost you a lot more in fees and penalties than it is to have Jeff deal with it now.
Yes.
And
the one big one is failure to file, period. I mean, it's just boom. You didn't
failure to file, boom.
That's it. It's a one-time shot. And then if you do owe them money, the dollars start rolling. Now, if you filed a extension on time, you're perfectly fine. They won't hit you for a failure to file. But in the past, they really, even if you have a refund, we've seen where they ding people who just go, I'll file later. They hit them for failure to file.
Yeah.
So they didn't do it in the past because for whatever reason, if you owe them, then the clock starts ticking, if you want to call it that, going forward. So, yeah.
In years past, in a past life, I was the poster boy for failure to file, Jeff. I mean, I just, I don't want to pay the taxes, so I'm just not going to worry about it.
It'll go away.
It'll go away. I can't do that anymore because I'm filing jointly, and my wife won't let me be.
Your wife will hunt you down and kill you.
She won't let me be irresponsible like that anymore, but I know how the brain works. I know people are like, I don't want to deal with this. Yes. I think I got a big tax bill this year. I'm just going to ignore it and bury my head in the sand. You do not want to do that.
Yeah. Just file an installment agreement, online IRS. You can actually go fill it out online. You can do it by paper. I think the IRS would rather have you do it online. Just you fill the data out and submit it and just come up with a quick payment plan.
And at the very least, go and see Jeff.
Yeah.
And find out, because the devil you know is always better than the devil you don't.
Yes.
So get it head on, cut the fees down, stop the fees, stop the interest payments, 636-394-5524. And that's for the people out there who didn't pay and said, I'm not going to worry about taxes this year because whatever reason.
Yeah. Or if you filed an extension and then you're like, I don't want to do my taxes. But I filed an extension.
Jeff's still here. And as we always say, taxes isn't just April 15th, or in this case, April 18th this year. Taxes is a year-long thing, so if you got an extension, Jeff is still there. Yep. It's not like Jeff takes off. No, he's not seasonal help.
No, not by no means. Our vacation got pushed to the end of May, so.
So he's around.
I'm here.
He's around. All right, so how is the IRS doing? If I popped out online and said, where's my refund.com or .gov?
So the funny part is we had talked about this. This goes back to what they call the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which has nothing to do with inflation, and it won't reduce inflation. It's been proved by a ton of people that it won't.
It's just a flashy name.
It's just a really good name for, when you got high inflation in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, not your IRA that you put money in, basically had the funding for the IRS. So they get $80 billion over the next 10 years. So there was an actual meeting that was supposed to be in February where the IRS shows up to the Treasury Department in front of Janet Yellen and says, hey, we got $80 billion. This is what we're going to do with it. They kind of missed that meeting. But
have they gotten the money?
Yeah, they've gotten pieces of it already because it's over 10 years.
Okay.
So they showed back up in April and said, okay, redo. Yeah. Here's our plan.
So Janet Yellen at the Fed said, hey, IRS, come down and tell us what you're going to do with all this money that the government
They're going to go
you.
Buy Maseratis for everybody.
In the first meeting, they said,
we can't make it. Sorry.
No one's home. Oops, you know, if the boss gave me $80 billion and said, I want to see how you're spending it, and I skipped the meeting, there'd be some trouble.
Anybody else, there'd be some trouble, big time.
Some trouble. But they did. They finally showed up.
Yeah, they showed up.
They got nice suits on.
Yeah, and said, oops, sorry. And Janet was nice with them. So, but no, this Danny Waffle, which is the new IRS commissioner, who was a previous IRS commissioner back 2017-ish, 14-ish, somewhere in that range. So he knows the game in a sense. Has taken on the reins. So I got a suspicion he's going to turn this around pretty quick from getting funding, and he already knows how the thing works.
Right.
Versus somebody new coming in trying to figure out, hey, what department does what and all that.
Yeah.
So the funniest is they exceeded their level of service. So Janet Yellen's goal was 85% of all phone calls coming in got answered. And they hit the target of 87%.
Wow.
And you go, wow, it's even better than what Janet said.
You know, to be honest with you, we joked that, boy, you're really setting the bar low, 85%. Mm-hmm. You don't want to shoot for 100% answer phone
like
calls.
13.
Yeah, they were at 13. But this is a government agency.
Yeah.
You know, these things don't run at 100% ever.
Ever, yeah.
So to see that they exceeded their goal, 87% of phone calls answered.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And we've noticed here over the last, I'll say 30 days or so, we can actually get through.
As a tax preparer yourself, you need to call the IRS.
We can get through and say, hey, what are you guys doing here?
You get to talk to, it's not just a phone prompt and then hang up.
Yeah. Well,
did that ever happen to you?
Oh, yeah. I won't. During tax season, I don't get on the phone with them. I just don't have the time to sit there. Mm-hmm. And then half the time you're on hold, basically listening to the worst music on the face of the earth. And then all of a sudden, an hour goes by. You know, I mean, it would run you. It would run you almost 2 hours, and it would just cue you and hang up on you.
Oh, for crying out loud!
3 hours later, you'd be like, "Oh, I was on the phone with the IRS," and you turn around and it already hung up on you an hour ago. So I don't do that anymore.
But this year,
pretty much get straight through within 7-8 minutes.
Talk to someone,
and you can talk to an individual. Individual can say, "Hey, I can help you," or "No, you got to call these guys." Mm-hmm. You know, and you go from there.
Wow.
So it's.
What a difference $80 billion would
Sure it does. So some of the other stuff that they have actually put in play, I guess if you want to call it, so they have some new digital tools, which you go, oh, IRS, the amount of paper that would show up and our digital data coming in, they're digitizing 80 times more returns than they did in 2022 because they have new scanning technology. Which $80 billion paid for. Backlog of unprocessed, 2022 individual tax returns basically have been pushed through, so there really is no backlog as we sit. We're 2 weeks out of tax season, which is phenomenal.
And everything's going.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they actually enabled a new direct deposit refund option. So this is if you file an amended return, it's done by paper. And it is atrocious because you may file an amended return and you may not get a response for months. And what it is that's if you, like right now, if you're sitting today and you went, oh, hey, look, I got this W-2 or 1099 I forgot to put on my tax return. You amend a return, add it. But let's say it's to your advantage and they owe you money. You have to print a return, sign it, put it in the mail. Sit back and wait, and maybe in like 4 or 5 months they send you a check. Now they have the ability. We have to get the states on board. There's only, I think, 6 states that are going with it immediately, but we got to get Missouri and Illinois on board so that you can e-file an amended return, and it literally electronically files and basically does a direct deposit right to your bank account within a day or two.
Wow, minutes, not months.
Yes. So I mean, it's. I mean, there's some where we never even got a response from some of the amended returns that we sent in. So you got to reprint it, have the client re-sign it, remail it, and it's a hassle. I mean, it's a huge hassle.
And you've been saying this for years, for as long as we've been doing the show. The IRS hates paper. They have enough of it already.
Exactly. And the problem is they were understaffed. I mean, seriously understaffed, as you can see from these numbers. So if you were doing something digital and it went right through their computer system, boom, nobody ever asked a question, nobody ever said anything, it's great. But if you need assistance with anything, open an envelope.
Yeah,
read a tax return.
A human has to open an envelope and read what's inside.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Or there were stacks sitting on people's desk. There was the report out there, and I don't know what service center it was, where they shredded an entire office of tax returns and data, and then they said, oh, it won't affect anybody. But yet, across the country, I know people are like, hey, where'd my stuff go?
Yeah. Oh, we shredded it.
Yeah, and they're like, well, the high-up said shred it to get back on track. So.
Well, this is like when my email account was too full, and I just said, you know, click all, delete all, let's start over from scratch. I probably missed a couple of things.
Yeah,
but
a few things in there.
It's one of those things where we've heard all of the horror stories about the IRS. Yeah. They're still working with floppy disks.
Yeah.
They're still working with computer systems from the 70s, fax machines, paper everywhere. They can't even have lunch in the lunchroom because it's covered with boxes of paper. Yeah. So, yes, do they need financial assistance to hire more people?
Yes.
Do they need technological advancements at the IRS?
Big time.
Oh, big time. And as a tax preparer, you are looking at this and saying this is much better than it used to be.
Yes, it's getting better, which is good. So hopefully, you know, as we go forward in time, they start to hire people, they train people. Again, multiple phone calls were made in the past where you get somebody on the phone and they go, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And that's where it ended. You're like, what do I do now?
Okay, so going paperless, that's one thing. Hiring more people to answer phones, that's another thing. What else is the IRS planning to spend all this money on?
So some of the other things, they've already picked up 5,000 new hires. Okay, so there's 5,000 more people in there.
How many people have retired, though?
Well, it's right now they're playing a game where it's, you know, basically they're just replacing.
One in, one out.
Yeah. But as we go forward, a lot of people will stay, and then they'll have that increase in
nice cushy
headcount.
Government job.
Yeah, probably doesn't pay that much, but it's got awesome benefits.
Great
I'm
benefits,
sure. Right. So they're saying that there were 6.5 million phone calls that came through. That's 2.4 million more with live assistance. So basically, that's awesome that many phone calls were actually answered. They say they cut the phone wait time down from 27 minutes. I don't buy the 27 because there's been a good 60 plus in time.
More like 27 hours.
Yeah. And then basically they have a callback option. So some of the technology.
I love that.
You call the customer service line and says, hey, you're number 52 in line, but, you know, we'll call you right back and save your spot.
I had to call
IRS has that.
Southwest Airlines, and they had the callback, and I'm like, well, rather than wait on and listen to this terrible system, hold me call me back.
Yeah, so they have that put in play. They actually opened some of these what's called the taxpayer assistance centers. So I think they said they opened 17 new ones, and that's where you can walk in and say, because there's a couple of IRS offices in St. Louis. Used to be able to walk in and talk to people, but they're more processing, kind of administrative. They don't really want you in there anymore.
Right.
And they make it tough enough that you got to go through the gauntlet, you know, metal detectors and the whole shoot match to get to the door.
Yeah, the door's locked.
Yeah.
Don't come in.
But they did open up taxpayer assistance centers. That's where if you have an issue or you get a notice and you don't know how to respond or what to do, you can just go right to these taxpayer assistance centers, sit down. There's a wait. But they can actually walk you through what the next step is, how to fix it, what you did wrong, what they did wrong, etc.
And this isn't they won't do your taxes for
you.
They
won't do your taxes, but they'll help you weed out an issue. And they may say, here, fill this form out, go home, fill this form out, bring it back next week, and that fixes it. So that's kind of what takes place at a taxpayer assistance center.
And that's for people trying to do their own taxes.
Doing their own return.
And they run into some snags.
And they run into a snag, notice. It's easier. So it used to be in the past, it was easier just to go to the office and say, hey, you sent me this notice. What's my next step? They tell you exactly what to do, versus just write a check and make them go away. Mm-hmm. So that's good that those are now opening because a lot of them closed in COVID.
Sure.
The taxpayer, I guess it's the Advocate Center, actually quit taking new clients because they didn't have manpower to help out. That is, if you call an 800 number and say, hey, I have an issue, help me, they'd say, oops, sorry, nobody's left. Have a nice day. They weren't. I don't even think they were taking calls. So that's the good side, is the assistance centers have opened back up to help you out. Could be easy fix, could be technical. If it's technical, you need somebody like us to help weed through it and fix it. So.
And we're going to get political here in just a second. I don't want to. We never do. We don't take sides. We have to mention it, though, because it's out there.
Oh, yeah.
But there are people that want to defund the IRS.
Yes.
This is the place that, for better or for worse, processes all of our taxes. And we don't even know how terrible it's been run. They stopped the Advocate Center.
They quit taking,
answering the phones.
Quit taking because they didn't have the manpower.
Because they didn't have anybody there. You know, even if hey, thanks for answering. Well, I only answered to tell you that we're not taking.
We're not taking new clients.
Click.
Thanks. Figure it out.
Goodbye. The fact that it's running so thin and hamstrung all these years.
It was defunded multiple times. They took a lot of the stuff away from them, which, to run a company, you need that funding going forward, or you need that revenue to offset. I mean, this is a government agency. They just kept defunding. It started a long time ago, too.
Somebody has to process the taxes.
Exactly.
I don't understand.
Well, and this pays for roads, bridges, all that fun stuff, your, emergency assistance, whatever you want to call it. The problem with it is they defunded it so much that it became a disaster. Mm-hmm. And it's getting resurrected, if you want to call it that. So,
well, for now.
But some of our friends on one side of the aisle want to pull this $80 billion.
So the debt ceiling fight that's going on right now. The Republicans want to cut spending as part of the provision to agree to raise the debt ceiling. The Democrats say, no, just raise it. Yeah. And now they're going back and forth. And for whatever reason, whoever's right, whoever's wrong, the dust will settle, and hopefully we won't default on our loans. But one of the provisions is, we need to cut funding and the IRS $80 billion. Yes. We want to start there.
Yeah. So maybe it's great for 1 year and then it's terrible the rest. I don't know.
But they got the money for at least this year.
They got this year because it's
spread out over 10 years.
It's $80 billion over 10 years. So
one of the arguments is let's take the next 9 years back.
And take it back and go spend it on, some research project.
Yeah, whatever else. The question is, what are we spending all of our money on?
Yeah.
Well, in the case of the IRS, we're trying to get people to answer the phones.
That's all we want. Answer the phone. And
that's all we want.
Process paper. So I mean, that's basically where they're at the end of the day. They do have the ability as coming to respond to notices electronically. So right now, I mean, we basically either have to call. If it's something really technical, we have to put together a package. We have to draft a letter, and we have to fax it in. I mean, again, fax machines are kind of I won't say old technology, but it is kind of old technology.
The one we have here in the back, I've used it like once, and it's that aged yellow color.
Yeah.
It probably used to be, bright white.
We have built into our big printer, it's got a fax machine in there.
Yeah, and a scanner.
It'll scan through, it'll scan it and fax it right, all in one. But the IRS now has the ability, if you get a notice, that you can respond by fax. And there's going to be coming here shortly, from what I was reading, you will be able to respond to them digitally, which means probably not email, but a secure portal that we could sign up for, that we could send data back and forth, which means you're fixing an issue in maybe a couple of days versus a couple of months.
Yeah.
Which is great. So.
Yeah, and coming from a tax person, and Jeff, it doesn't mean you're a Democrat. It doesn't mean you're a Republican. You work in this field, and is it working better?
It's for what we see. First cuff, working way better than what it was.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, you could sit on the phone for hours and go nowhere and get hung up on just because nobody was answering phones.
Yeah,
or if you did talk to somebody, they're like, "Hey, sorry, I'm working from home. I can't help you." Call somebody else.
Call someone else, yeah.
Which that one will really set you off when you sit on the phone for an hour and a half, and then they answer the phone and tell you that.
Yeah, call someone else.
You're like, what?
Right. Get in line on that someone else's phone.
Yeah. So it's like, So that's where we're at.
All right. What is the prospect? What happens if we do hit the debt ceiling and default? on our loans.
The funny part is everybody's like, oh, man, it's the end of the world. But the question, this is a test question, how many times has the U.S. defaulted on their issues in the past, historically?
Historically, I thought I heard someone say that we've never defaulted on our loans.
Not true.
Not true. Okay.
So this goes way back. How about a 1790 default?
Oh boy.
So this is
boy,
George Washington.
Were we even a country at that point?
Technically. So we defaulted in 1790.
Mm-hmm.
We defaulted in 1861, which was the Civil War.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you go, okay. I mean, everybody was going at it, so nothing was going to go down.
Oh, we forgot to pay our loans because someone's shooting a cannon into our office.
Yeah, so we might not do that. 1933. So the world came to a screeching halt. So what they're saying in 1933.
Oh, the Great Depression.
Yeah. So this is what's called the Second Liberty Bond Act, okay? And they're saying that's basically the legislative root of today's debt ceiling. Started in 1933. So 1979 was a technical default, if you want to call it that. So by all modern definitions, it constitutes a default because they didn't make their payments on time, but they did within a couple of days, and it was a three-week period starting in late 79.
So I don't know who we owe out there, China, other countries.
Oh, we owe tons of
people all over the place. Is it like when I miss a credit card payment where they give me a grace period?
I don't know if there's a grace period because you're talking numbers with lots of decimal points and zeros.
1979, we missed it by a couple of days.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks, and this is the funny part is they failed to the Treasury Department failed to send checks out in a timely manner, totaling $122 million in 1979. Which is equivalent to, $10 trillion today.
Yeah.
I don't know if that number is true or not, but, and basically there were, so 79. So
that wasn't too long ago.
It's not that long ago.
But the other ones were, Great Depression, Civil War.
Yeah, Civil War.
Not just two parties who can't agree on something.
So there was rumors that, and what was that, 2013, that the world was going to come to a screeching halt. But
I remember that. CNN had the countdown clock, until we default on our loans. Tick tock, tick tock. Yeah. And that came down to a couple hours.
It did, yeah. And then they got it together, voted, passed it, and we were good to go.
Well, Kevin McCarthy said, we will not default on our loans. But that being said, they still haven't agreed on it.
I haven't agreed on it. And originally, Janet Yellen said that it was September is the issue. And then she came back and said
summer.
And they said, maybe not September, maybe June, because the math wasn't all there.
June's not far away.
June's right around the corner.
June's not too far off.
And it could be that it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Nobody really knows. So that's the question of the day. And
I would hate for these politicians to say, "Oh, we've got time. We've got 2 weeks," and then find out, "Oh, wait, no."
Well, yeah, because on the 8th hour, 11th hour, they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, we got to do it." Boom. So again, debt ceiling just basically increases the spending of the U.S. government, and it was never a political thing back until maybe the last 8 years, 10 years, and then it became very political. Back in the day. Even Clinton time, it came up. They said, boom, here's what we need. Everybody agreed to it, and it went on its merry way. It was
an administrative thing.
Yeah, kind of more thing. You guys vote on it and, let it go. So you go, okay, was that what caused it today? Where we sit debt-wise, U.S. debt, the huge number. There's the countdown clock out there that shows what it is grand total, what it is per person in the U.S. I mean, everybody, kids, adults, the whole shooting match.
I've seen that. They have to make that clock a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to adjust that because it is. And if you watch the numbers way back, they would kind of go, click, 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 click. It was kind of, now it's like
adding billions of dollars. But it's one of those things, depending on who the president is and depending who owns the House and depending who owns the Senate.
So
it's a thing.
It's a thing. And again, without getting political, one of the things that's going to take place here shortly, and a lot of people don't pay attention to this, all of Trump's tax laws that were put in play basically sunset 2025. And we have a presidential election in 2024.
Oh, boy.
So whoever basically wins 24 gets to reset, tax law going forward.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's going to be brought up.
Probably too soon in the cycle, but I'm sure that's going to be brought up as we get closer to the actual election day. So,
but unfortunately, none of us listen about the tax part of the debates. We all want to hear about the salacious stuff.
Exactly. You did what to who?
Yeah, to who would win? And my opponent said this, and it's like, can we talk about the stuff that actually affects all of us?
Well.
Taxes.
Exactly. The funny part, though, is it started off Hillary and Trump's debate, the first debate they ever had back in the day. They started off, first topic was carried interest. And probably 5% of America, 2% of America understood what in the world they were even talking about.
Right.
And the carried interest is if you're a hedge fund, you don't pay ordinary income tax, you pay capital gain on hundreds of billions of dollars a year. I mean, that's the greatest tax law out there. If you're a billionaire and you have a hedge fund, you hold it for 2 years, you hold an investment for 2 years and sell it, you and I pay ordinary income on that. These guys,
hedge funds don't.
Hedge funds don't. They pay 20% capital gains is what it's at. So,
and I'm on that a sale like that would be
shoot you through the moon,
40%,
exactly,
if not higher.
Yeah, but they pay capital gains.
Is that the thing that Kristen Sinema was trying to keep for the hedge funds? She was working on behalf of the hedge funds.
They tried taking it out in this, I guess it was in a September-October bill of 22. It was supposed to be stripped out, and then Sinema stepped up and said, oh, no, we have to keep it in there.
Keep this gift for my hedge fund donors.
Exactly. And it's like, well, we know who pays you.
Yeah. It's not the American government, that's for sure.
So that's where we sit. So it's kind of a big, I say the election is bigger, not just from the geopolitical standpoint, but it's bigger from the tax angle because whoever wins gets to really reset all kinds of tax laws.
We'll find out who's running.
Yeah, that's a whole
thing.
Another issue.
But at the end of the day, I don't care what your kids are doing. I only care what your thoughts are about the tax code because that actually affects me when it comes to my wallet. And when you think about your wallet, do you want to keep more money in your pocket, in your bank account? Do you want to keep less money going to the federal government? I could do more with $1,000 than they can.
Yes.
If you gave the federal government $1,000 of my money right now, who knows what they'd spend it on?
Go poof, and you never see it ever again.
A hammer.
Yeah.
One bolt for that F-15 fighter jet.
Oh, yeah.
Gone in seconds. But for me, that's an extra couple of days at Disney.
Exactly.
That's an extra couple of nice dinners with my wife. That means way more to me than it does to the government. How do I get to keep more of what's mine? Well, you call Jeff Zufall, 636-394-5524. Tax season is over, but taxes never stop. We got paid yesterday, and I looked on there, and I said, tax season is over, but they keep taking taxes out. Whoa.
And they will.
Because it never stops. So how do I keep for the rest of the year, the next 7, 8 months, Jeff, how do I keep more of my money? Well, I call you, and we sit down and we talk about it. 636-394-5524. Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. Tax season is over, but taxes don't stop. So you need to think about this as a year-long thing, years long, even 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Exactly.
Get a plan set up.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that you should address it. Otherwise, more money's going off to the government out of your paycheck. You'll never see it, and it could be your money.
Yes.
And that's basically the point of the show and the point of what Jeff does every single day. We'll go to commercial break, and when we come back, more of Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Big 550. Back to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. It's the name of the book that Jeff wrote. It's the name of the show that we do. And it's what Jeff eats and breathes and sleeps on. And
Yes.
at night, he's just dreaming, how can I help Josh keep more of his hard-earned money on his paycheck?
That's called a nightmare.
Pre-taxed, not going to the federal government. How can we help Josh out? Because, Jeff, I need it. But I need it, so I went and found somebody. His name is Jeff Zufall.
Exactly.
So, this is the life you chose.
Unfortunately, yeah. So how about I was roped into unknowingly because I'm second generation. So.
Yeah. His dad said, you're gonna own the office one day. So
came true.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't complain too much.
No,
you got a fireplace in your office and
That's
two
right.
TVs. Sounds pretty good.
Can't
to me.
beat that.
Can't beat that. But what you can do for us is, you can help me on the path to two TVs and a fireplace.
Exactly.
I know we're doing a fireplace project at our house right now, and my wife is saying, well, let's wait and see what the return is, what our tax return is, and maybe that means we get those pendant lighting, over the bookcases, or whether we don't. Yeah. So, we'll figure it out.
You get a flashlight.
But that's the point. If you can keep more of your money, you can maybe get nicer things.
Exactly.
Because I need a fireplace and bookshelves more than the federal government needs an extra $1,000. Okay, that's the plain and simple of it. So,
yes, I agree. I agree 100%.
100%. So, where's my refund? Where can we go to find out where our refund is?
So if you're curious where your refund is, it hasn't hit your bank account yet, or maybe it says, if you look at your bank, it says pending. You can either go to our website, which is CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. Right-hand side, click a button. It says, Lily, where's my refund?
Yep.
You hit that button, it'll drop down. It'll say federal, state of Missouri, or Illinois. Click the button. You need to know your Social Security number, your zip code, and your filing status for the previous year. And then you also need what was your expected refund. And it will actually then compute and tell you where you're at. If it says pending, just hang tight, give them a little bit.
We are just, 10, 15 days out?
Yeah, you're only 10, 15 days out. I mean, if you filed your return 30 days ago and it says pending, there's probably something going on there. Either somebody's reviewing it, or, there's an issue and they're waiting to kick you a letter or something of that effect. But it's super simple to look at and see where you're at.
Okay. And you can do that via Jeff's website, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. On the right-hand side, a button that literally says, where's my refund?
Where's my refund?
Click on it, put your numbers in, and see what it says.
Yeah.
Got to watch out, though, for scams.
Yes.
Don't just go and click on anything.
Don't go Google this. Go to irs.gov. Make sure it's the IRS's site or our site. Don't go Googling it and saying, hey, here's a quick way to do it.
I just did it before we started the show. You said, hey, hang on, we actually need a couple more numbers from you, Josh, so it's not going to give you an answer. But when I Googled, where's my refund?
Yes.
All of these weird sites popped up, and they all want to look official. They all want you to click on them. Yeah. Because then you're starting to input your very sensitive information.
Serious sensitive data out there. And there's a ton of scams that are going down right now.
These people want to get a hold of your refund before it ever gets to you.
Before you get it. So the biggest one that we see is social media. If you see something on Facebook and it's like, hey, I can save you money or I'll get you money back, be careful. Be very, very, very careful. The reason being is they're actually through NSA, which is National Society of Accountants. They sent a email link and said, hey, this guy's out there doing this. And what he says is, he's on maybe he's on TikTok, I believe. And he says, you could write off everything in your house. You just open a business and just run it all through here and write it off. Problem is that's extremely illegal.
Yeah, okay.
Unethical, illegal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, unethical is one thing. Illegal is another.
Yeah, because you have to have a profit motive for a business. You just can't open a business and then start writing off all kinds of stuff in your house and take these massive deductions because you can't. I mean, now, if you're first year of your business, that's different. But you have to have a profit motive. You can't just create it, have zero income, and then say, hey, I'm going to write off all this stuff. It's all over social media. Oh, you do this and you can get back $5,000 from the federal government and all these weird things. So
why would I be taking tax information
from
TikTok, from Instagram?
It happens.
From Facebook.
Yeah. So, and again, at the end of the day, if you took that information and you filed a return and it's fictitious, it's on you. Seriously. So that's one. The basically like online account stuff, like where's my refund? You go to the wrong site. You type in all this data. They have everything that they need to take off and run and go with it. And they're third-party scammers. So the funny part is I get emails through tax season. They were random, but I got just literally in the last 2 days 5 emails from people, and they're scammers, basically saying, oh, I would like to have you do my tax return, blah, 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 and it goes through this long thing. And so the setup is we respond and say, great, we'd like to set up a time to have a conversation, and then they set up a date. And then on that day, what they do is they shoot an email that morning and say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make the meeting, but here's all my tax data. Like we're dumb enough to click on the box to pull the data. And what they're trying to do is just they're phishing, basically what it is. So it's funny because they stand out like a sore thumb. When you read the verbiage, you're like, no way, that's a scam.
And they'll get a bug into your system.
Yep.
And could they get my information? I'm a client of yours.
Well,
could they get my information?
We pay. Our IT is phenomenal. Seriously, they keep that from happening.
Right.
So we have no, we can't click a link policy. If you don't know who that person is sending you an email, don't delete it.
If it smells fishy, even 1%.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Seriously. And there's a system running in the background, firewall, that's running at all times. It's like, man, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So that's the phishing.
Are you regulated by the IRS or by the government to have that in place since you do deal with people's finances?
You have to.
Yeah.
IRS, FINRA, because we're registered reps. I'm sure SEC's in there somewhere.
Sure. Yeah.
But there are regulations on stuff that we use, software that we run, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I let IT take care of that. They keep all that stuff up to date, which got me tax season one day. All of a sudden, my system goes, we're updating. It just started running an update. So it took an hour and a half for it to run its little thing.
Right in the middle of tax season.
I'm like, And I kind of got mad at the IT guy, and he's like, sorry, it's got to do it. It's got to do the updates.
Got to protect everybody.
Yeah. So,
well, I think we did a scam show last year.
Yeah.
And maybe, we revisit that and talk to the IT department again, because this stuff is out there. And is it probably more right now just because it is refund season?
Because it's exactly. It's in everybody's waiting for the refund. They're kind of anxious, saying, hey, where's my money?
Mm-hmm. And they want to get your refund before you even get it. Yeah. It's harder to get my money out of my checking account.
But this refund, hypothetically, is a little easier to get in front of and get. So then the other thing is what they call offer and compromise bills, and we've talked about this. You see the late night commercials on, I had $80 billion in IRS debt and I settled for $7.
Yeah.
I had
$100,000 in debt and I settled for $50.
I mean, unless it's total.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Total destitute. Yes. And there are cases where they did, but they are very, very, very slim on that. So you'll see this.
Tax attorneys? Are these lawyers that
I wouldn't say tax attorneys are running commercials. It's a place you call an 800 number. You give them all their information. I think there was a gentleman that was on the news, it might have been a couple months ago, where he spent like $7,000 or $8,000 to help him get his tax issue taken care of. At the end of the day, they did nothing.
They said, we looked into it and there's nothing we can do.
Yeah. But after he paid $7,000. So I think like
non-refundable.
Yeah. I don't remember what channel it was that was trying to help him out to see if they could get back his money, but I don't think that he got it back. I don't think he got back his money.
Yeah.
But that's what they call an offer and compromise bill. Offer and compromise is if you owe the IRS a ton of money, well, maybe not even a ton, but money. You can go to the IRS and fill a whole bunch of paperwork out and do an offer and compromise, which means, hey, I owe you $50,000. I can't pay it. It's impossible. what would you settle for?
So I can do this myself.
Technically could.
I don't need the late night guy.
Yeah.
I don't need to pay him $7,000 to do this for me. I could do this myself.
Exactly. You just fill the pay. They want to know income, assets. They want to know.
He's doing the exact same thing that I could be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've seen it in the past where they've paid $4,000 and $5,000 to attorneys, and they didn't even fill the paperwork out right and sent it in. IRS came back and said no.
Yeah.
You missed 3 sections on this, and I'm like, you paid $5,000 for somebody
to only half fill out the forms.
And once I looked at it, I was like, there's no way in the world the IRS is ever going to give you you got assets.
But this is something that you can do for people as well. And
yes,
here, let me be a testament to this. Jeff is a real person. I could reach out and touch him right now.
Yeah.
And not only is he a real person, he's my tax guy and my wealth advisor as well. So he's a real person, and you can go and see him at his office in Ellisville, Capital Advisory Group, and you can call him right now, 636-394-5524. It's not a 1-800 number. It's not on late at night on television.
Call 1-800-888.
Yeah, he's a real person that you can go and see and talk to. Bring your issue to Jeff.
Yeah.
Have a consultation. He can tell you what he can do for you. And if you agree to go forward, then you go forward. And I'm guessing, Jeff, that whatever tax issues we have, we owe the government, the clock is running. To take care of a tax issue is probably cheaper than to just let the interest and penalties run.
Yes.
So if you find
that's all I'll
yourself,
say is yes.
Stop burying your head in the sand. I always say this. You bury your head in the sand. Well, I want to bring the clock down into the sand with you. Okay, you're hiding from it, but these are all the fees that are racking up still. Yes. You can't hide from it.
You can't.
So it's still running. The juice is still running. So there's that out there. So watch for the scams. You can go to Jeff's website, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. On the right-hand side, where's my refund? Click on that. Yes. That'll link you directly to the state and the IRS websites.
Exactly.
So don't try to find it on the internet because there's a lot of scam sites out there.
There's tons of them out there that will try and get your data, whether they take your refund or they try to just get your data to go forward from there.
And with 2 minutes left, Jeff, inflation. Where are we at? Where's the Fed at with interest rates?
So, couple things. May 3rd, which is next Wednesday, Fed meets again. Not to say that it's a Vegas odds, but I think it's a 92% chance they're going to raise rates another 0.25%. Okay. A lot of people were hoping that they would pause, which is kind of meaning that they're done with their rate hikes, but I don't think that they're to that point yet from what we've been reading. But it'll probably be a 0.25 point hike on next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So, again, that kind of big picture gets us going. We're sitting currently at 5% inflation. So, again, we've come way down from where we were. I mean, back last year we were probably at 9. I think the highest was 9.1. It's gotten it down to 5%. But there's a factor in here, and I say a factor. And what they're talking about is the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, is components, and it's a percent broken off in like 6 or 7 different categories that makes the CPI. And the one that is the issue is they're actually referencing inflation for shelter, so whether it's apartments, homes, whatever the case may be, which accounts for 30% of the total CPI basket. So of the CPI component, it accounts for 30% of it, which is the biggest. Actually was higher, basically 8.2 versus 8.1 last month. So that's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So again, inflation generally is coming down, but
it's being stubborn.
It's being very stubborn, and unfortunately, Janet Yellen did make a comment a couple weeks ago in a press conference saying that it's going to be here for a while. So most people are interpreting that next couple of years.
Well, she's busy these days.
She's very busy. She's a little bit all over the place. So, but
checking in with the IRS, dealing with inflation.
But again, 5% is where we sit. So again, it's coming down, but you got to figure they had 8 rate hikes, with one more coming here probably the next week to get it from 9.1 to 5. And again, how long will it last?
And again, I've been to the grocery store, and so have you. Yeah. It's still high.
It's way out there.
It's way out there, especially on groceries and gas.
Man, those are the two items that are taken out of this
number. Yeah, those are the real ones that we deal with. So
yeah, and they do that just basically in the 80s. They did it to kind of levelize or normalize the inflation number, so it didn't become like 22%.
Pillows and TVs and couches and appliances, sure. But when it comes to our groceries, the things that we buy every week, every other day.
Yep.
How often do you go to the grocery store, Jeff?
I haven't been which is kind of cool. I haven't been for like 2.5 months.
Oh.
But I got the joy of going the other day, so.
Yeah. Well, I know that I talked to Heidi and Connor about it during the afternoon show, and they go every day, if not every other day.
My wife does. She goes pretty much every day, every other day to buy for meals for the day.
Nice, fresh stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a weak guy.
My wife does a lot of cooking, though. I don't. If I burnt toaster strudels, so so I'm not allowed in the kitchen anymore.
Some people like them that way. All right,
oh,
Jeff.
no, I mean on fire.
Oh, okay. All right. Inedible.
Yes.
Jeff Zufall, senior tax strategist. He's a much better tax guy than he is
cook.
Toaster operator. Jeff Zufall, senior tax strategist and wealth advisor with Capital Advisory Group. 636-394-5524. He's my tax guy. He helped me keep my money. He can help you keep yours, too. Keep what's yours with Jeff Zufall. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
See you next week.
You betcha.
You've been listening to Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall, senior tax strategist and wealth manager at Capital Advisory Group. To learn more, call 636-394-5524 or visit CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com.